It's time for Lefties Losing It, and let's start at the very bottom, rock bottom, and let's work our way up. Let's delve deep into the gutter to find the sort of vile lefty that is beneath contempt, the sort of person who thinks it's fun to mock a grieving widow. Just imagine how soulless and desperate for attention one must be to do this.
That young man, I forgive him.
Yep, that was the miserable former Fairfax columnist Clementine Ford, and she not only mocked Erica Kirk but also shared these callous and frankly batshit crazy comments for young men mourning the loss of a great man.
Like, his most ferocious male fans are so fucking gay for him. They're all crying out of their penises in my messages. You're so mean. You're a fucking fat. You have no morals. Charlie's dead.
That's the modern left for you. They are as toxic and thick in Australia as they are in the US and the UK. Now let's go to the US and hear from another scrote. This one sounds demonic.
Hey MAGA, how bad does it hurt? The Jimmy Kimmel's back, but you guys can't get your person back.
And guess who that is? That is Shelby Campbell, a Democrat candidate for Congress in Michigan. No, really, she is.
Hi Michiganders, specifically Detroiters. Do you guys care that Charlie Kirk has passed away? Yeah, I didn't think so, because my district is primarily black people, and Charlie Kirk said awful things about black people. So, no, I think my district will like me because I advocate for them as a white person. So...
Charlie Kirk did not say terrible things about black people, and she must have a very low opinion of black people if she thinks they support that sort of ugliness. Now, let's check in on the body positivity movement. One of their biggest, excuse the pun, activists is Tess Holliday, who is taking a stand. She is blocking family and friends, anyone who does not subscribe to her worldview.
I literally blocked my brother yesterday. I'm not speaking to my mom, my stepmom, my dad. I'm collecting them like Pokemon. I'm like, who can I block next? And it stinks, but I just think that you have to stand for something. And I think as you get older or mature, and I feel like you guys are already far more mature than I was at your age, you have to stand for what matters to you, and when you see things happening, you have to say something, in my opinion. And I understand that there's like safety concerns, and I have a lot of privilege as a cis white woman saying those things.
Look, I'm just happy the Ozempic dodger is taking a stand, because standing will involve some movement, and anything that gets her moving I think can only be a positive. Now to tennis legend Serena Williams, who decided that she was bored with her vast wealth, her charmed life. She was going to find some way to play the victim. Even in the luxurious surrounds of a New York City hotel, she somehow found a way. Bravo, Serena, bravo.
All right, everyone, how do we feel about cotton as decoration? Personally, for me, it doesn't feel great. So actually, it feels like nail polishing for cotton, natural.
Imagine being so triggered by a cotton plant when you make millions every year from flogging Nike garments, you know, the ones made out of cotton. But we're supposed to be alarmed because at some point in history, slaves picked cotton, and Serena carries some sort of generational trauma, and the mere sight of cotton sees her posting stupid videos on the internet. If Serena is that bothered by slavery, perhaps she can check out the conditions at some of those Nike factories that keep getting such bad press. Now to run off this all-female edition of Lefties Losing It, and yes, that includes Gavin Newsom, who's coming up. He's an honorary Banshee tonight. Let's hear from Kamala. Listen to this and ponder for a moment. What would have become of America? What would have become of the free world if she was president?
Invariably, somebody would want me to take a picture or to hug their child. And someone in the back would hand that baby over through the crowd
Up to you.
of people who would
Bless the
hold and
baby.
carry but pass the baby
See?
and then pass the baby back.
Pass the baby back.
And I don't know, there was something about that when it would happen.
What can you even say? It's terrifying, terrifying. But we must not dismiss Kamala as some sad joke, some word salad clown, because she's also dangerous. Listen to her here engage in some inflammatory rhetoric at the worst possible time.
At a time such as this, it demands one thing for sure. We must fight fire with fire.
Now let's hear another example of Democrats engaging in reckless rhetoric, particularly knowing how unstable and prone to violence their supporter base can be. Here is California Governor Gavin Newsom, the man who wants to fail his way up to the White House. Here he is with Stephen Colbert, demonising ICE agents who are just doing their jobs.
Masked men jumping out of unmarked cars, people disappearing, no due process, no oversight, zero accountability happening in the United States of America today. People ask, well, is authoritarianism, you're being hyperbolic? Bull, we're being hyperbolic. If you're a black and brown community, it's here in this country.
You know, the man who imposed pointless mask mandates on Californians during COVID suddenly seems very triggered by masks being worn to protect the identity of ICE agents from the left's violent, radicalised activists. Gavin doesn't seem to get that.
ICE, unmasked. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of?
A few days after those comments, an anti-ICE gunman, Joshua Jahn, launched a deadly attack on an ICE field office in Dallas. The FBI revealed this lunatic had expressed a desire to instill terror in ICE agents, but in his botched attack, he managed to only kill and injure detained migrants. Let's bring in documentary filmmaker and commentator Ami Horowitz. Ami, Democrats love to lecture everyone about turning down the temperature, but they continue to paint their political opponents as fascists. And got another example here, Gavin Newsom's official press office posting this, saying Stephen Miller is a fascist in all capitals. I mean, this is tantamount to incitement, isn't it, Ami?
Of course. Look, Chris Murphy, who is a professional idiot and is cosplaying as a congressperson, specifically said that that kind of language is not incitement because they're focusing on the definitional language of incitement is a legal definition, and they're trying to say it hasn't reached that legal definition which you can be jailed for. We're not talking about that. We're talking about what does one's rhetoric directly lead to. I don't know what you expect when you see all of this leftist violence this year, when you've spent the last year talking about Donald Trump, his policies, as a fascist, as a Nazi, as the man who will steal democracy from you. What do you expect people to do? And by the way, I want to make one other point. I've said this in the past, I'll say this again. All of this, by the way, is going to pale in comparison to what the future terrorism is going to be, which is eco-terrorism. We've seen shades of it before, and these permission structures are already in place to allow for it. It's going to blow all terrorism away, pun intended, when that becomes the mainstream focus of terrorism.
Now, talking about Gavin Newsom there, his failures haven't stopped him from being a front-runner to be the Democrats' next presidential candidate. Ami, he failed as San Francisco mayor, he's failed as California governor, but he really doesn't face too much opposition. In fact, this is his major competition.
A tyrant. We used to compare the strength of our democracy to communist dictators. That's what we're dealing with right now in Donald Trump.
Where to for the Democrats? They've got Gavin, they've got Kamala, who's doing her book tour. Who is their next leader? Because at some point, and some point shortly, they need to come up with a credible candidate to fight the 2028 election. They seem to be completely lost. They've got the most radical voices who seem to be dominating at the moment, the AOCs and Jasmine Crockett's and Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, they're the heroes of the Democratic Party, unfortunately. I don't hear large-scale opposition to Mamdani, running as an open socialist / communist in New York. By the way, and in that clip you played of Kamala, she was part of that permission structure we've been talking about saying, hey, demonizing President Trump as a communist dictator. I mean, this is insanity. This is a mainstream politician speaking like this. Look, I don't know if you guys have this in your crazy.
And Army, right after that, sorry to interrupt, but right after she called Donald Trump a communist dictator, she went on to endorse Mamdani, an actual communist, for the next mayor of New York. So the permission structures you're talking about, they're completely lost, the Democrats. Where are their values? I mean, where are they so far left now that the AOCs and Jasmine Crockett's are now really their mainstream? Or is there a sensible demographic that's going to come to the fore in the next year or so?
Yeah, no, they are mainstream. As I said, they're heroes, the Democratic Party. Look, you talk about, is there a mainstream candidate? Yeah, I suppose Josh Shapiro is. He's running at the end of the pack for the 2028 Democratic nomination in the recent polls. Kamala Harris, you just talked about, who lost her race, she lost, is still in the last 14 different polls they've had that have come out this year. She is first or second in most of them, okay? She is absolutely, she has gunning for this nomination. She turned down the gubernatorial race in California because she wants to keep her options open for the race in 2028. She's still involved in national political debate. She's still fundraising. She's still going to all the meetings. She's absolutely, right now, she's one of the people, the leaders in the clubhouse. And and by the way, don't sleep on Gavin Newsom. You talked about before. I know we all see him as a clown, which he is. But what I'm telling you is there's a reason why he won over and over again as governor of California. He knows he can hide his radical policy, and he does in fact fake it as a mainstream politician. He knows how to debate very well. I know we laugh at him on our side, but the truth is he's very, very good at it. I would not sleep on him at all.
No, he was even trying to be the sensible centrist, despite what he's done to California, sitting down with conservatives. He even had Charlie Kirk on his podcast, and he's trying to present a very different image that is a bit more palatable to people outside of California. We'll see how that goes. Now, President Trump is determined to clean up Portland. He wants to restore law and order and hold Antifa accountable for the violence and destruction that they engage in regularly. You went to Portland during the BLM Antifa riots of 2020. Let's have a quick look at what you captured.
Even after they were attacked with glass, bottles, and rocks. At one point, I was hit by a propelled gas canister. There were groups of people interrogating journalists. They warned me that if I portrayed the protesters in a negative light, I would face street justice. And after being recognized, I was pelted with broken glass. In the words of the protesters that I spoke to, the goal of these protests is to encourage societal breakdown so that it could be rebuilt in their own warped image.
Army, that was 5 years ago. How much have things changed in Portland? President Trump wants Antifa to be designated a domestic terror group, but Democrats and many in the media claim that Antifa doesn't even exist. It's not an organised group. It's just packs of people who come together occasionally to burn down things and bash people. How do you see it? You've been there on the ground. Is there a need for intervention?
Yeah, you asked me how much has changed since that video that I shot nearly 5 years ago. Zero has changed, Rita. Zero. It continues to this day. You know what I hate? I hate the fact that my videos tend to be evergreen. You can show a video just like that. And by the way, most people, if you didn't say what year it was,
would think it's happening now because the attacks on federal buildings across our country and the continued attack on ICE facilities and government buildings in Portland. Look, there is this narrative that Antifa is not a thing. It's a figment of the right-wing imagination. I've been undercover with Antifa, right? I have gone and met with Antifa. They have threatened me over and over again, both online and in person. No, they are real, okay? They are funded. They have a plan, and their plan is destruction of our society. They are the soldiers of the left wing, the literal soldiers of the left wing. Look, when you go to these places, right, and you see Antifa, for example, when you go to Chaz, right? Do you remember when Seattle was taken over by Antifa?
Oh, yes.
And all these places, they dress the same. They're armed the same. Yes, they are armed. They wear insignias. They have the same banners. Don't lie to me and tell me that they're nothing, right? That they're just some random people coming up and putting on this Antifa label. Yes, they don't have a president. They don't have a particular hierarchical structure. But look, if it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. They have chapters, right? Specific, the Rose Antifa chapters, the chapter in Portland, right? The John Brown Gun Club in Seattle. These are actual chapters. If you go into the Anarchist Handbook, right, the Anarchist Handbook library, they specifically set out how do you create your own chapter. And they have a set of terms you have to abide by, okay? So don't lie to me and tell me they don't exist. They do, and they are a threat, a true threat to us and our democracy.
Ami Horowitz, thank you so much. Welcome back. Joining me now is celebrity and royal commentator Kinsey Schofield. Kinsey, let's start with Violet Affleck, the daughter of Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck. She was given the honour of speaking at the United Nations, where she had this to say about mask mandates. She apparently wants everyone back masked all the time. She's still wearing her mask.
When it comes to the ongoing pandemic, our present is being stolen right in front of our eyes. For adults, the relentless beat of back to normal, ignoring, downplaying, and concealing both the prevalence of airborne transmission and the threat of long COVID, manifested in a series of choices. Young people lacked both real choice in the matter and information about what was being chosen for us. Every subsequent infection increases the risk of long COVID and places people who already have it in greater danger. Here's what we don't know, is what it does to reinfect children over and over and over again with no endpoint in sight from the day they are born.
She needs help, that much is clear. I don't know what her parents were thinking allowing her to do that. She's 19, but let's be honest, Kinsey, she was only given that platform because of how famous her parents are.
Yeah, her dad was Batman. You know, I'd prefer him in a mask constantly if it's the Batman mask. But, you know, President Trump has repeatedly criticized the United Nations, questioning its purpose and effectiveness. I mean, this is basically all the testimony we need to prove that he is correct. This is the evidence. What is the UN if not a glorified stage for a paranoid Nepo baby? And let me say on the record that I've seen her in Brentwood without a mask on in the past. So practice what you preach, girl. Yes.
Kinsey, moving along to the royals, let's talk about Prince William. He's made a heartbreaking admission in an upcoming episode of Apple TV's The Reluctant Traveller. He revealed, Kinsey, how Kate's cancer battle took a toll on him.
Is this not the antithesis of Prince Harry? You know, Prince William, he admitted 2024 was the hardest year I've ever had. And this is with his sit down with comedian Eugene Levy. But what stands out is the attitude behind the honesty. By reflecting that life's challenges are what shape us, William showed us that he's not a perpetual victim. He seems grateful to have made it through this experience. And that courage and strength is exactly what resonates with people. So I really thought that this was a beautiful moment, a great moment for him. And while I'm sad to hear that last year was such a horrific experience, it's so refreshing to hear someone say, but I lived through it, onward and upward, you know, and I'm grateful that I survived.
There's a lot to be said about gratitude. Now, sources have claimed that Prince Andrew and his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson have been told they are not welcome at the royal family's Christmas celebrations amid fresh allegations surrounding their involvement with pedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein. Kinsey, what more can you tell me about this story?
Yes, so this is according to a report in the London Sunday Times that Prince Andrew and Fergie will not be invited to Sandringham. Now, I don't generally advise anyone to avoid church, but in Andrew's case, maybe he could spend a little more time in church privately rather than making headlines next to his very famous family. The Daily Beast reports that this is a win for Prince William, as Prince Andrew will never be photographed alongside Prince William again, they said. I'm sorry, but the head of the Church of England should not be regularly seen next to someone on an Epstein flight log. That means you too, Bill Clinton, if you're watching. I know you are. I know you love Rita, Bill.
Now, the ex-wife of Oscar-winning actor Colin Firth, her name is Olivia Gugili, I probably mispronounced that, but never mind. She's torn up her royal order, the most excellent order of the British Empire, and she did this, Kinsey, as an act of defiance over what she calls the UK's appeasement of President Donald Trump. Let's have a look at her hijinks.
I'm returning it. This is my certificate, accept it. And the reason why I'm doing this is the post box is going.
Ah, what an attention seeker. You could just do that quietly. Why do we need to share it on the internet? Has she got much of a reaction to that?
Of course she has. I mean, at first I thought I loathed this woman because she had the audacity to cheat on Colin Firth, aka Mr. Darcy. But this just sent it up a notch, right? What she doesn't understand is that the royal family was instructed by Keir Starmer, their prime minister, to host Donald Trump because he had some ulterior motives, which he actually got millions of dollars, whether it's trade and in new opportunities, new business opportunities for the UK and the United States. So this shouldn't be on the royal family. I just think that this entire thing is ridiculous. Obviously, this is a woman who didn't do her homework.
But the royal family, Kinsey, the royal family is supposed to be entirely apolitical, and that's part of their strength, and that's part of why they're beloved. And of course they're going to host the leader of the free world, the President of the United States. He had an unprecedented second reception there, but of course they're going to do that. I mean, to think otherwise, you would have to be a simpleton. Now, let's move on to a more significant story. Comedian and actor Tim Allen has taken to X to reveal that Erica Kirk's speech, where she forgave Charlie's killer, inspired him to forgive his father's killer. He wrote, "When Erica Kirk spoke the words on the man who killed her husband, that man, that young man, I forgive him, that moment deeply affected me." He also wrote, "I have struggled for over 60 years to forgive the man who killed my dad. I will say those words now as I type. I forgive the man who killed my father. Peace be with you all." That's rather powerful, Kinsey.
My favorite Santa Claus, by the way. This moment of grace struck a chord with him, and it also highlights what many fans have always known about Allen. He's not just a comedian. He's someone grounded in conservative traditional values, personal accountability, faith, forgiveness, and a belief in redemption. In an era when much of Hollywood leans heavily into progressive messaging, Allen's brand of wholesome, family-friendly comedy and his clear moral center feel like a breath of fresh air to a lot of people.
And let's not forget, he got cancelled. His show was cancelled despite its enormous ratings and popularity because of his personal politics. So all those people who were triggered about Jimmy Kimmel being off air for like a couple of days for deliberately lying, I didn't see them coming out in support of Tim Allen when that happened. I want to ask you about country music sensation Jason Aldean. He's been paying tribute to Charlie Kirk, and he played this video at the start of his recent concert tour. Kinsey, I saw Jason and his wife at Charlie's funeral in Phoenix. They were clearly deeply impacted by Charlie's murder.
I mean, Aldean, similar to Tim Allen, what we are just talking about, can relate to Charlie Kirk's legacy. He talked about that 2023 single, Try That in a Small Town. It drew backlash and was briefly pulled from CMT. And he said that people like Charlie Kirk were the first to say, this is what it's all about, this country coming together, you know, calling out stuff when we see it, trying to get everything back on track. So I do know that they had a great relationship and they really admired each other. But I cannot tell you how many people I've had to block and unfollow over the last few weeks that have no idea about this man, but were quick to judge Charlie. I mean, have some empathy over the fact that this is a father that no longer gets to raise the babies he was so proud of, and these babies that don't have a dad. I'm grateful to people like Jason Aldean that'll speak up for him and will be kind and honest about who Charlie Kirk was.
Yep, a lot of people have told on themselves in the last 2 weeks, and so much of that invective, so much of that ugliness is born out of complete ignorance, because what they claim Charlie said and what he stood for are almost always completely incorrect. And you know what? I'm not even interested in correcting them anymore. You just ignore them because they're not worth the trouble. Life's too short. Now, Matthew McConaughey, life's never too short for him. He's revealed in a new interview that he and his mother, Mary Kathleen K. McConaughey, once fell out for almost a decade. They barely spoke because, I can't believe this, Kinsey, she was leaking stories to the press.
I mean, I sort of love this story because it's so relatable, like the mom that's so proud of you that she can't keep her mouth shut about you. I mean, obviously, I feel bad for him. They've since reconciled and even worked together now. And this is another example of this wholesome reinvention. Hard to believe that this is the same guy who was once known for pot smoking and bongo playing in Austin, Texas. He's been very vocal about his beliefs and the importance of God in his life, particularly after having children. Despite issues with his mom, he seems like a really great father.
Kinsey, he is a beloved actor. I would say if you were going to judge the acting world right now, he would be the most popular male actor. And the fact that he moved his family out of Hollywood so he could raise them in a more wholesome setting speaks volumes about the type of man he is.
I totally agree. And he's not too bad to look at either.
I think that has a lot to do with his appeal. Let's be honest. Kinsey Schofield, thank you so much for your time.